Fitness testing is how you track progress. Without testing, you don't actually know if you're getting stronger, faster, or fitter for rugby. Today, we're breaking down the essential rugby strength and conditioning tests that you can use that don't require fancy equipment or a load of people to do. We look at what they measure, how to do them, and when to do them. If you want to make sure that you are getting better in your rugby fitness and performance as a whole, you need to measure your progress. Why do you need to do testing? You need to identify your weaknesses. Where do you need to improve? That is really important. Setting your benchmarks to work off of. What is your baseline and what is the gap between where you are now and where you need to be as a player? To stay motivated, when you see progress, you're more likely to stay more consistent and you're more likely to trust the process. And adjusting your training. If progress stalls, you need to change the program. You might need to change your nutrition or maybe your recovery protocols. Rugby's a really dynamic sport and your training and your lifestyle should also be dynamic to cope with it. Testing gives you the data. The data then drives your decisions and your programming. You'll know exactly where you are and exactly where you need to go next. Inside of the Ben Bealey Performance Program, players test regularly depending on what their goals are and what stage of the season they're in. It all just depends on you and it depends on your needs. If you want help getting fitter and just getting better at rugby, then you can join the program for free. The link's in the description. You can't throw in a 1 rep max test and a Bronco willy-nilly as a rugby player. Testing has got to be done at key points in the season. If we simply break down a rugby year into the off-season, the pre-season and the in-season, then we can easily plug in testing windows that are going to work with your rugby and not interfere with it. The start and the end of your off and your pre-season phases. This period is perfect for chasing physical goals and training really, really hard for adaptation. So it's key to see if that training is actually working and if that adaptation is actually happening. Without games in the schedule, you can worry a lot less about fatigue and the amount of time that it takes to do these tests in the week, for example. For a typical off and a pre-season, you could do multiple before and after tests, depending on your context and depending on your goals. During the season, it's still really important that you test in the season to make sure that you are maintaining your fitness levels, if not improving them. You can do this in your bye weeks when you don't have a game in the season, or maybe you can stagger your testing out through a certain amount of weeks in the season. For example, in a certain week in the season, you might want to test your aerobic fitness, so you throw in a Bronco. Then the week after, you might want to test for your power and your strength. So you may do a jump or a throw test for power, and you might do a 1 or a 3 RM test for your strength. This is simply staggering the time and the fatigue from those tests throughout the weeks. You're going to want to do these tests in the season away from your game days and away from any heavy life load weeks where you might be really, really busy at work or you might be traveling a lot for some reason. Testing at the right time helps you to periodize your training properly and it doesn't interfere with your rugby performance, especially on that crucial day of the week, game day. By doing this, you know when to push yourself harder for that adaptation or when to maintain your training so that you stay performing at the highest level. Strength is vital for rugby performance. Here is how to test for maximal strength to ensure that you're building more force for your game. You can simply use the 1RM or 3RM tests, aka your 1 repetition max or 3 repetition max. Pick a key compound lift that you know how to do properly and safely. Examples of these that are very commonly used are the back squat, bench press, chin up, or potentially the trap bar deadlift. Whatever you can do properly, that is a heavy compound lift, go for it. After a couple of warm-up sets of the movement, you are going to want to gradually build up your load towards the 1 repetition or 3 repetition max. You're going to have a maximum of 3 attempts as heavy as possible. You must hit full range of motion and do the exercise properly. In between those attempts, you want to rest for about 3 minutes. The 3 repetition max follows exactly the same structure as the 1RM. There's just more reps included in each set. And you can easily predict your 1RM using calculators online or training apps like the Ben Bealey Performance app. Use this if you're maybe slightly less advanced or experienced in heavy strength training. Another option you could use is the isometric mid-thigh pull test or isometric testing. However, I'm not going to talk about these because these use force plates and are typically not as accessible for the day-to-day rugby player. Strength testing matters. Strength is a foundation of fitness and it enhances other elements like your power, your speed, and your conditioning, as well as directly enhancing your rugby performance. By tracking your strength gains over time, you're going to stay motivated. You're going to avoid any stagnation from long and draining training periods throughout a season. And you're going to be able to adjust your program where you need to and just keep performing at higher and higher levels. Here is how you can test for power with no expensive or technical equipment. Broad jump test. This is a simple measure of your horizontal power. All you need is a tape measure and a straight object like a dowel or a meter stick. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart, jump as far as possible, stick the landing and measure the distance. Take a best score from 3 jumps and ensure that you're fully recovered between your efforts. Similarly, you can do a vertical jump test, and this just measures your vertical power. Stand beside a wall, jump as high as possible, measure the height of that jump. You can use a pen or you can even just use a camera to record the height of the jump. Just make sure that it's consistently done in the same place with the same measurement tool. Medicine ball throw. This is a great measure of your upper body power, and all it requires is a medicine ball and a bit of space in the gym. Using a simple chest pass or an overhead throw for as much distance as you can, and make sure each time you do the test, you use the same weight of med ball. Power is a direct performance indicator in rugby, and you have to ensure that you are getting more explosive from the training that you're doing. By tracking your progress, you are going to ensure the training is working and getting you more explosive, and you aren't over fatiguing. You don't need expensive gear to track your speed. Here is how to measure your progress using just your phone camera, a tape measure, and some markers on the field. Place clear and visible markers like cones or poles at the start and at each distance. I would recommend one at 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, and 40 meters. If you can't measure these out accurately because you don't have a tape measure, for example, just do the test at the same field, same location, and use the 22 meter line and the 40 meter line, for example, as those markers. For recording, just get a tripod, set up your phone camera to capture the entire sprint. Try and get it on the side angle so you can see all the way through. After thoroughly warming up and getting yourself ready for the maximum effort, press record and do the sprint from a standing start. Use the timestamps on the film to record the exact moment that you go past each of your markers. Subtract the start time from the marker time to determine your speed over that distance. This simple 40 meter sprint test is a great way of measuring your acceleration speed from a standing start. If you want to measure your absolute maximum sprint speed or velocity, then you can use the flying 10 meter protocol. Here, just use a 20 meter build up to reach your top speed and then record the 10 meter maximum effort, aka this is the time between the 20 and the 30 meter marker. Simply just divide the distance by the time taken to cover it, make sure it's in seconds, to get your meters per second speed. AKA it's going to be 10 because it's 10 meters divided by how long it took to get from the 20 to 30 meter marker. This really matters. In rugby, speed wins those one-on-one battles and it breaks the game open. If you want to have those electric moments in your games, then you need to get faster. And you need to test your speed to determine whether you are getting faster or not. By simply just using your phone to film and track these metrics, you can take the guesswork out of your speed training and you can ensure that you're actually getting faster using nothing but simple and easy bits of tech. Your engine drives your involvements. It helps you train longer and it is what gets you across the line in the 80th minute and beyond. Here is how to easily measure your aerobic fitness for rugby. The Bronco test is a widely used tool in rugby and is a simple and easy way to test for your fitness. It is a 1200 meter shuttle consisting of 20 in back, 40 in back, 60 in back, 5 times as fast as you possibly can. The Bronco measures your aerobic capacity and it adds in change of direction demands which you experience in rugby. It is also such a widely used test in the rugby world, so there is a ton of research, there's a ton of data which can be used for everyday players to standardize scores and apply them to prescribing your training and getting you better. When on-feet options aren't available to you, or maybe you're injured, for example, then time trials offer a really good and simple alternative to a test like the Bronco. A really standard and good time trial that you can use is a 2 kilometer row test. This is a brutal measure of your total body aerobic endurance. Simply, all you need to do is try to improve the time of your 2 kilometer row every time you do the test. Let's say you're injured, you can use a similar format as the 2 kilometer row time trial and just change the equipment. For example, you might have a lower body injury, so you might want to change the rower to a ski erg and do a 2 kilometer ski erg time trial. Maybe you have an upper body injury, change it to a 5 kilometer watt bike. Do whatever suits you and your context. Just make sure that you keep it consistent each time that you test. These tests are also good because you can add metrics using the machines if you want to. For example, you can record your average wattage to track the amount of power output for that time trial. Conditioning isn't just about being a little bit less tired. It is about having the capacity to maintain your high intensity involvement for the full 80 minutes of a game. Tracking these specific scores is going to help you adjust your conditioning. It's going to help you prescribe specific sets, reps, durations, and speeds when you're training. And it's going to help you design your movement between continuous, interval, or potentially circuit style training based on where your engine is actually lacking. Body composition isn't just about looking good in the mirror. It is about optimizing your efficiency as a rugby player. Here's how you track it easily and accurately. Firstly, body weight. This is such a standard and easy tool. Make sure you weigh yourself weekly or bi-weekly and at the exact same time and time of day. For example, you could pick a Monday morning before breakfast, before you drink anything or train each week. Just remember that typically for a rugby player, you are aiming to get leaner. Leaner doesn't always mean lighter. So typically a rugby player wants more muscle mass, less fat mass, to be a more efficient machine on the field. A simple visual way to check your body composition improvements is to use progress photos. You can take front, back, and side-on angles of photos, and you can do this every month or two. This is such an easy and subjective way to visualize how your body composition is changing over time. Just make sure it's consistent. Use the same lighting, same time of day, same place in your house, for example. Ensure the data is reliable. Slightly more advanced methods of body composition testing are Skinfolds or body scanners. Skinfolds require calipers and they also require a trained tester to measure for your body fat percentage accurately. Body scanners, they're also not always available for rugby players despite becoming a lot more common nowadays in gyms around the world. If you have these available, by all means use them, but again, be consistent with when and how you test your body composition with these methods. Has to be the same person or the same machine, the same clothing, the same time of day, etc. In rugby, carrying less fat mass and carrying more lean muscle mass is going to enable you to produce more force, be more explosive, last longer periods of training and games, and look more athletic. By tracking these methods consistently, you can stop those crash diets or those dirty bulks and those drastic training program changes, and you can start adjusting your training and nutrition to build a body that is going to perform on game day. Testing, it is how you track your progress. Test your strength, your power, your speed, conditioning, and your body composition. Record absolutely everything. Keep tracking it over time. That is how you know if your training is working, and that's how you adjust it if it isn't. If you want a complete rugby performance system with coaching, programming, testing protocols, and progress tracking, then join Ben Bealey Performance for free for 28 days. The link is below. Let's start to make some progress with your rugby.